Hi students! In this demo, we're going to cover your anatomy cropping assignment. The first thing you'll want to do is download the Illustrator setup file, and then I'll go over what the assignment is going to do. You can also download the cropping PDF and also check out the student examples. So you should open your Illustrator DT cropping Illustrator file. And what you'll see is a couple letter A's. You'll have your chosen word. I use asparagus for example, but you all have a 6 to 8 letter word. And in this assignment, what we're going to be doing is creating 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch squares and then cropping letter forms within those squares. So there's 4 basic variables that we will work with when exploring these cropping exercises. Number 1 is exploring case, which is really simple. It's just the difference between using an uppercase A or a lowercase a, using face, which means anything from universe to Garamond. And on the left here is a list. I listed out what typefaces you all can explore and work with. Then scale, which will be a big factor in how you either scale the letter form really large to crop in the space or very small. And then lastly, weight. So that's using anything from a thin version of universe to an extra black. So just understanding that when working with type, you have 4 basic variables, and this is all you really can choose from when you first start working with it. So again, case, face, scale, and weight. So the first thing we want to do is just draw our 1.15 square. You can do this just by holding shift so that the square and then also those parameters come up at the top, so you can tweak it to be perfect. And we're just gonna have a fill with no stroke, and it's pretty easy. If I hit T for the type tool, I'll just come over here and I'm just going to type an A. Now to scale and play around with that letter form, if I hold shift, I can scale the letter form up. You want to hold shift so you don't distort the letter form. That's kind of key. I don't want to see any distorted and tweaked out letter forms. That's not part of the assignment. The assignment is just the scale and play around with rotation and the weight and the face. So again, you don't want to distort the letter form, so please make sure that you're always holding shift when you're scaling. And then I'm going to switch that to work with Garamond. And I'm just going to use a lowercase letter form and switch that to white. So folks, just make sure that's in the foreground. You can play around with scale. You can play around with placement. You can turn it upside down. I don't care what you do. Just want to start to experiment to see what will give you the best looking crop of that letter form. So let's say that this is my choice. So I've already done one example, and just to quickly continue, I can hold shift and option and copy that. So when you're putting your examples together, try to align them and do a whole page of A's or whatever your first letter is. Don't just do a bunch of random letters on the page. It's kind of hard to see which ones are better than the other ones. So again, I would do a whole page of A's, a whole page of S's, a whole page of P's, G, U, and S. You don't have to do repeating ones. How many is on the page is up to you and how many you can fit. But again, I want you to explore producing a whole entire page of them. So as I go through, I can just simply switch this to an uppercase A. Again, play around with rotation, scale, cropping. After you maybe have a couple examples with Garamond, you then can switch the typeface. Again, face to maybe universe. Again, you can work with the condensed, bold, black, whatever versions you have. So with this A, I'm just going to scale it up even more till I get something maybe like this. So again, you just keep experimenting. And we wanted to also work with doing the inverse of that. So how that would work. It's just simply switching the stroke and then switching this to black. And you can see that it doesn't quite sit in the space properly, so we need to create a clipping mask, and that's pretty easy to do. Do is create another 1.5 by 1.5 rectangle. Put that on top. Select all. Go under Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And that will, pretty much the top box creates the bounding area for our clipping mask. So that's how you make a clipping mask. Pretty much you put a box on top of your letter form, and you can do Object, again, Clipping Mask, Make, and it'll contain it all within it. And then if you double click it, that's how you can come in and edit and move it within that shape. The last thing I want to show you is if you're transferring from the desktop to the laptop and you maybe don't have all these typefaces, you can go under File and hit Package, and what it'll do is it will package your file into a zip file, but it also collect all the fonts that you're working with. And so again, if you're working on the desktop and you want to transfer to your laptop, that's the easiest way to do it, is to, again, under File, Package, or another solution is to select the typeface and then under Type you want to do Create Outlines. And what this does is it doesn't allow you to switch the typeface anymore, but it makes the type a shape. So when you transfer it from, again, your desktop to your laptop and back and forth, if you don't have the typeface, this one won't default where these others might. So again, there's two solutions. You can either package your file or you can create outlines for your type. So again, in review, what I want you to do is make a whole page of letters for each one that makes up your word. I want you to experiment with different case, so upper and lowercase crops, switching the typefaces, again, from anything from Garamond to Serifa on this list, playing with scale, and also changing the weight of the typeface. The other things you'll do is you'll work with orientation, so where you place this within the square. Also looking at shifting axis and rotation, and then a reverse of figure ground, so going from a black square to a white square and exploring those. So that's it for our demo. Happy exploring with your cropping.